It's Tuesday, and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We are in season number 4, episode number 3. My name is Matt Menzel, and segment number 2, our focus shifts to women's volleyball. They are back home this weekend. Matchups on Friday and Saturday against Rockford and against Concordia Chicago. And we'll be joined by one of their seniors, outside hitter Jenna Chaussee. But up first, our focus, football. And they're coming off a victory against Concordia Chicago. And kind of join us is associate head coach Jeff Walker, back for his 22nd season with Falcon football. Coach, thanks for your time. And let's start by talking about this current 2022 season. Falcons off to a 3-1 start, 1-1 in conference play. As mentioned, a great bounce-back win Saturday against Concordia Chicago, 35-7. Your assessment of the victory?
Oh, well, it's always an honor to be here, Matt. I appreciate that. This year, this game in particular was a team effort. I mean, the defense stepped up and they shut down their running game, which was the strength of them. And we came out strong on offense. Really took away what they obviously wanted to do. Changed what they wanted to do. We struggled a little bit once we got comfortable with what they switched to. And then in the second half, I think we came together and really took it over.
You wear many hats, and we'll talk about the various hats you wear on this Falcon football coaching staff. But among the many titles are the wide receivers coach. Your thoughts on the progress of the receiving corps thus far?
Well, it's an interesting group. We've got juniors and seniors, and then we have a really good group of freshmen. And we don't have anything in between, no sophomores in between. And I think the leadership that our seniors are providing and the athleticism that our freshmen provide, putting those two together, it's really starting to come around real nice.
When you look at the veterans that are back, how in sync are they with a veteran quarterback like James Lynn?
Oh, that's the best part about it, is they've been together for 4 or 5 years. So, no, it's been really good. And watching the progress of those guys each week and just how we're getting better week in and week out, just makes it exciting moving forward.
And you look this past week, James Lynn threw for 247 yards. He threw for 5 touchdowns. His favorite go-to receiver, at least on Saturday, was Tim Houlihan, who came through with his second 100-plus receiving yard performance. He had 5 catches, 111 yards, and a couple of scores. You're also the special teams coordinator. I know coming in, talking with head coach Greg Etter, there are some question marks as to who would be positioned where, who would start where. At this point now, 4 games in, do you feel like you have more answers than questions, or are there still a lot of questions there going forward?
I think we have more answers than we do questions now. Zach Heinen was injured. He's got a quad issue, so he couldn't go this weekend, which then put Mason Kaczynski as the do-everything guy, which we've had here in the past, and it's fine. But Mason hasn't necessarily been taking all the reps at kicker and kickoff over the last couple weeks. So he had to kind of change his mindset. I thought he did a great job of doing what we asked him to do. He had one miss spot, but when you kick off as many times as we ended up kicking off, one missed spot, we can live with that. The rest of the unit has to rally and make up for it. But, Zach hopefully will be back this week, so we can kind of go back to you got 2 days of this and 1 day of that, and that's how we do it with those two. And so that should come around real nice.
Well, let's talk about Mason Kaczynski. How big of a weapon is he, being that he's got that versatility? But also, how about James Lynn, who just when you think he's about to throw on 4th down, he's got that punting ability?
He does. Well, I don't want that to get out that we punt a lot on 4th down with
Sure.
the quarterback, but it does happen. And it's part of the special teams and part of the weaponry that we have. And Mason, both Mason and Zach both can kick off, and both can punt. I mean, Zach actually came in here as a punter, and Mason came in here as a kicker. And right now, Mason's our punter, and Zach is our kicker. So the versatility they both give us and the work ethic that they give us does make us more multiple in those areas.
Now, this week in the NAC, Noah Tarski is about to be named the NAC Special Teams Player of the Week after a couple of block punts. He was a defensive player of the week a couple of weeks back. What did you see from Gio this past week?
Well, he wasn't starting there the first couple weeks, and we decided as a staff we needed more length on the outside, putting pressure on the punter. So we put him in there last week or the week before, and he got his feet wet. And this week he did a nice job. He went to the block point. He kept his hands down. He got the block. And on the other side, we had the scoop and score guy got both fumbles recoveries. So that was good. I mean, it's kind of textbook, I guess, for those two.
So at this point, 4 games in, do you like the progress you're seeing, the improvement this team's making week after week?
Oh, I think you have to. Camp was short, and so we didn't have a lot of time during camp. So we kind of used those first few games to kind of get a feel for ourselves as a team. And I think, we had a little hiccup at BU. It's a good football team, and on the road, we had a little hiccup there. But to see them bounce back against an athletic Concordia Chicago team, and show our athleticism and, take that win, I thought that was pretty good.
I know a big emphasis again in training camp, Coach Eder mentioned just being disciplined, especially when it comes to the penalty area. And I feel like that's an area that's improved. All of a sudden you went from 100-plus penalty yards in the home opener to 2 penalties for 12 yards on Saturday, not beating yourselves with silly penalties.
Well, exactly. You can see how that makes a difference, both on offense and defense and special teams. That was our first special team performance without a penalty. And it makes a huge difference in the outcome.
So take us inside now the coach's office. It's game week. You guys are preparing for a matchup on Saturday at Rockford. So Sunday up to game day. What's a typical week in preparation for game day?
Well, Sundays wrap up Saturday. So we have to, correct the mistakes from Saturday, praise them for the things that we did well, and so that we can keep enhancing those things during the week. So that's Sunday. Monday is for the coaches. That's just a game plan day. So offense, defense, special teams, we take the whole day and we get our game plan put together. Tuesday, we start implementing that game plan with practice on Tuesday and meetings. Usually those are offensive meetings and defensive meetings as a whole group. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we break them down, and it's, position meetings and breaking down how we're looking and doing within the game plans. Friday it's kind of make sure we're all on the same page. You go in there in the offense and defensive meetings and special teams meeting, you put up what we're doing, and you just make sure that everybody's doing this. We like that a lot better than this, Coach. So hopefully that's what we're getting on Fridays, and then hopefully we take care of business on Saturday.
So do you still watch a lot of film, not only just of yourselves, but of the upcoming opponent?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what coaching football is, I think. It's, it's 11-11 and offense 11, defense 11, special teams 11. There's so many moving parts within it all that you have to make sure that everything that you have in adjusts well. And so you got to watch a lot of film. And there's teams that have tendencies. We probably do too. And we're trying to look for our own tendencies and what we've been doing consistently over the last 3 weeks. Maybe we got to change it up a little bit.
We mentioned you wear many different hats on the coaching staff. Another one of your titles is recruiting coordinator. This might be a loaded question, but how has that process maybe changed in your time with Concordia?
Well, we've kind of spread out more. When I first got here in 1992, we had a lot of Wisconsin kids on our team. And if you look at our roster now, it's probably 35-40% Wisconsin, the rest out of state. We do a lot of more out of state recruiting. I think just the WEAC has a big part of that, and the financial aid system and everything else that goes on day in and day out. That we branch out and we have to cast a big net around the whole country and to get the quality student athletes that we bring in.
I want to know who gets the assignment to go down to Florida every year and recruit. That's got to be a nice cushy.
I don't know if it's nice. I mean, that's hard work down there.
It is, but a little sunshine in the wintertime.
No, that never hurts, for sure. But, no, all of us have a warm weather destination, so it does work out well.
Perks of the job.
You bet.
Talking about you a little bit more, coaching football. How did you get started? Why coaching?
Because I couldn't do anything else. And I wasn't good enough player to move on and keep doing that. So, no, I enjoy. I don't know. When you don't play as much, you to try to play, you really got to know more, and than the just pure athlete. That he can get away with not knowing as much because he's so dang fast or strong and all those things. So, really had to dig in on it, and I really did enjoy it. After playing, I was a student coach when I was finishing up, and
At Whitewater?
At Whitewater, and then I was actually off for a year just bartending down in Madison when a friend of mine got a job here at Concordia and said we're still looking for football coaches. So I contacted Coach Gabe, Jeff Gabelson, who was the head coach at the time, and he brought me in on an interview, and then that's kind of how it started. And I think, now you can fact check this, but I think I was the first athletic GA that Concordia
This is true.
ever had. So that's how it got started.
See, I didn't know that, and I saw that in your bio, too. First ever grad assistant at Concordia, 1992, 1993. Obviously, there's grad assistants now, but take us back to 1992, 93. How has that role maybe changed? What were you doing then? What are they doing now?
Well, it was a lot different. I mean, I was the only one. I was by myself. But the thing that was the biggest difference is the film. Back then it's VHS, and so you have to take the film and you have to make copies of it, and you had to deliver it and meet halfway to all the conference schools on Sunday to deliver the film. Now it's just, you come back from practice and they can cut it up using Huddle and just cut the thing up into so many different pieces, and send it out to the team, and we can send it, put it into there, and every conference school gets it. So that part of it is so much different.
I'm thinking, too, back in the day, VHS tapes and meeting other teams. I mean, you're talking McMurray, Greenville. I mean, there's some nice distance.
Oh, there were some
trips there.
Some hauls on on Sunday morning, you bet.
Now, throughout your coaching career, and you've had other stops, you've come back to Concordia, but you've been a coordinator on defense, offense, special teams for a coach. And obviously, you know football, but is there a transitional period when you move from one side of the football to another, or is it one of those where you just kind of pick up where you kind of left off, knowing that at one point you're studying defense, now you're just flipping sides of the ball?
Well, that was kind of the neat transition for me, is because I played defensive back in college, and then I coached the DBs for 17 years. I had a little stint with the D-line, got to learn that part of it, worked as a coordinator on the defensive side, and then when I switched to offense, I kind of used everything I knew about defense and what defensive guys are being taught and what they're looking for, and kind of thought it would be, a nice transition over to wide receivers and say, hey, this is what the DBs are looking for. This is what you're telling. We can't do this. We can't do that. They're trying to get this leverage. We got to stem into that. All those little things in coaching that really helped me make that transition. And now I've been on the offensive side for, I don't know, it's about 12 years now, 12, 13 years. So, and then special teams, I learned most of my special team stuff from Coach Gabe. He was a special teams guy here back in that day, and I helped him with those, and I just kind of took over and ran with what he was doing.
Obviously, in 2+ decades of coaching here at Concordia, a lot of memories, a lot of highlights along the way, and a lot of big-time rivalries. What comes to mind when you think, and obviously you're in the here and now, but when you take a second to reflect on your time at Concordia, what are some of the things that maybe pop in your mind when you think Concordia football?
Oh, you think about the brotherhood. We had the undefeated season in regular season 2016, and number one in the region, got to host a playoff game. Wasn't here.
Was that Wisconsin Lutheran?
It was at Wisconsin Lutheran. That kind of helped promote getting the new turf and the new press box and those type of things. But, Coach Gabe retired this year from AD, but going to his retirement party and all the different guys from different eras that came back, and teams that are now getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. You had the 2006 team got inducted, then the 1990 or 91 team got inducted, and to have those guys come back. And even though I wasn't here in the 90-91 season. I got here in 92. I knew half those guys because they're always so visible, and they're coming back. They're coming to our golf outing. They're just staying involved in the program. So it's like I knew all those guys anyways. And for the most part, the coaching staffs have really stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot, this staff now. If you think about Coach Eder, 15 years, Coach Adam Walker has been here 17 or 18 years. And back in the day with Coach Collins being here forever, and Coach Kehoe was here forever, and we just all stuck together. So it really has been a family. It's always been a family, and it's continued to be that way throughout all the different teams and all the different guys that have come through. It's pretty cool stuff.
And the stories are great, and it's funny how you go back to 1990 versus now 2022, and for a football player, the feeling when you see Lakeland on the calendar, or whoever a big rival is, it doesn't change. It doesn't matter what the era may be. That's still your big rival. You get up for those big-time games.
Oh, and that's what they talk about.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they, when you do see them at a golf outing or at a reunion or, at a retirement party, that's what they bring up. They bring up those rivalry games and the stuff they shared together. It's pretty awesome.
Now, we were talking earlier about what a typical week is for the football coaching staff, for the players, and right now the preparation is for Rockford. That game will be down at Rockford coming up on Saturday. What do you maybe expect from the Regions, or what have you traditionally seen from Rockford in years past?
Well, they've got a lot of athletes. They're a pretty high-powered offense in terms of they've got their quarterback back and their top receiver back. And those two, took a lot last year to hold those guys down, and the plan is to do that again, I'm sure, on that side of the ball. Offensively, we got to be able to run the football on them, and then pick our spots and throwing the RPOs and getting the ball down the field in those cases, and just not, hopefully we have another good special team day. With the effort and everything that we got this past week. And I think we can go down there and turn our fortunes a little bit. I think we've lost our last two down there, I think.
Yeah, 2-2 over the last 4 against Rockford,
yeah,
but down there, it's a difference.
Down there, it's always a different story. So, the guys got to prepare for an absolute war on Saturday.
Well, that's a team that's hungry. They're 1-3, 0-2 in conference play, coming off a huge loss score-wise against Aurora this past week. Falcons then are back home. That will be at Thomasini Stadium coming up on the 8th of October. That is the homecoming game against Eureka. Let's wrap it up on this note with 6 regular season games remaining, which includes a couple of home dates. You have the Cheese Bowl against Lakeland. You have the Luther Cup against Wisconsin Lutheran. What do you want to continue to see from this team in these final 6 games of the regular season?
Our goal every year is to improve each week. When you have to improve. If you don't improve, that means you've hit the pinnacle. Well, we should never do that. So we've got to see, these guys just got to keep improving at every phase of the game every single week. And if we continue to do that, okay, we have a chance to win all 6 games and finish this thing off with a playoff.
Well, Coach Walker, I appreciate your time. All the best this season. Take it one game at a time. Get it done on Saturday at Rockford.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you.
That is Coach Walker, associate head coach for the Falcon football team. And when we come back, our focus shifts to women's volleyball. Jenna Sauce, the senior outside hitter, will join us here on Falcon Focus.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus, season number 4, episode number 3, and a quick minor correction from our first segment. Jeff Walker informing us that he's on his 23rd season now, not 22nd, but 23rd, part of the Falcon coach staff. Either way you slice and dice it, he is a legendary figure among the Falcon coaching staff. And speaking of legends, one of the veterans of the women's volleyball team, that being a senior outsider, Jenna Chaussee, kind of join us now as our focus shifting to women's volleyball. And finally, we'll be back home. I feel like I say that a lot with women's volleyball. Finally back home with home matches far and few between. But home on Friday and Saturday, Rockford and Concordia, Chicago, the opponents. You sick of being on the road yet?
I am. I'm very excited to be back home. It's been a long few weeks of traveling. It's been a great experience while we're traveling, but it's definitely going to be huge to be home again.
Yeah, 13 out of the first 14 matchups have been away from the John Book Fieldhouse. What's been your favorite road trip so far and why?
That's a hard one. I think either our first opening weekend at Calvin or this last weekend at Stevens Point. I mean, it was just exciting going to play at Calvin. They have a really cool gym. It was just like a lot of excitement with it being the first weekend, but then also this past weekend at Stevens Point, we took the whole day Friday to just hang out as a team. We went to Mine Shop, just like played arcade games, so it was nice to just take a day off from volleyball, just be with each other as people and relax a little bit.
So far, the only home match for the Falcons, that was a 3-1 victory over Edgewood back on the 14th of September. Do you like to travel, and what's your favorite thing about traveling, if you do?
I do like to travel, but not like 4 weeks in a row. But I think what I enjoy about traveling is just getting to spend a lot of extra time with my teammates because we see each other at practice, but we don't spend 24/7 with each other. Not that we need to, but it's fun to be in a hotel with each other, just hang out, talk to each other, go to bed, and we're talking right before we fall asleep, so that's fun.
So when you're on these bus journeys that could be multiple hours, how do you spend your time?
I usually study a lot because I'm in grad school, but if I'm not studying, I'm usually sleeping.
And you can sleep on a bus, no problem?
Depends. I like to take some Dramamine to keep the motion sickness away, so then that'll knock me out.
Do you guys get to watch movies at all?
We haven't watched any this year, but I think a lot of our team are bus sleepers. Usually everyone's pretty knocked out, and people are climbing over each other to get to the bathroom, so...
That could be a jungle gym.
Yeah.
The biggest change coming into this season, obviously, the coaching change, and your assistant coach, Kevin Bittner, was promoted to the interim head coaching position. Was that a big adjustment for the players that obviously played last year? You knew him as an assistant now. He's the man in charge. Has that been an adjustment?
Yeah, it's obviously an adjustment. We were really used to Coach Janelle, but it was nice to know Kevin last year as he was the assistant coach, and I think he's done a really good job of trying to listen to our feedback. He's being flexible, we're being flexible, just like growing together and adapting because obviously nothing's going to be the same when you have a coaching change. But I think we made good adjustments and then kept things that were working well for us. In
your sports life, have you ever gone through a coaching change prior?
No, not really. All through high school I had the same coach, so I had never gone through a switch like that. And it's a pretty big switch, especially when, as a senior, I've been with Janelle for 3 years. But overall, it's going pretty smoothly.
So what sports did you play outside of volleyball growing up?
I did soccer when I was really little. Basketball for 1 year, but then I decided I didn't like running that much. And then I played softball for a while. I played varsity softball in high school.
So what made volleyball your ultimate sport?
I just grew up loving it. My mom was a coach, so I grew up in the gym literally as long as I can remember. I would walk over from elementary school to the high school and just be hanging out in the gym. So I think I just loved being around my mom during that time, and then I learned to love the sport and the excitement and the team aspect.
So from Chilton High School to Concordia, why Concordia?
A lot of reasons. Obviously, I love volleyball, but my first thing I was looking at was school. I knew I wanted to go for physical therapy, so I was looking here for physical therapy. And then also, I love the volleyball program here. It had the history of success. I knew that the coaching was good. I knew that the team had a good atmosphere. So I think both things combined, I really just couldn't go wrong in the choice.
Let me ask you about that success. Have you felt pressure at all? Is there pressure trying to carry that torch, if you will, that torch being passed on to continue that high level of excellence?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I came to this program knowing that there is a legacy, and I want to keep that legacy going. I don't want that to fall and crack, and I don't think it's going to.
Outside of your play on the volleyball court, throughout your, back to high school, now here in college, you've excelled in the classroom. What's been key for you managing being an athlete and a student?
A lot of time management. I have to be really picky about how I'm scheduling my time and where I'm dedicating my energy, which I've grown to be pretty good at. But then also I have a ton of support. I have great roommates, teammates, relationships all around. My family's been really great at supporting me. So, I mean, it's not all my own work. I really couldn't do it without the people around me.
When you mentioned you study on the bus trips, does that sometimes get difficult? Because I got to believe there's a lot of distractions on that bus. Perhaps you have friends there that you want to keep talking with. How do you just, tell yourself, hey, I got to study now. This is my time where I got to get in the books?
I think I just know I have no other option. It's either I get it done or I don't do well, especially with the program I'm in right now. But also there's a lot of other people on the team that are in hard programs, so a lot of us are in the same boat where we have to be productive in the time we have off of volleyball, so we kind of support each other through that. And also when our whole team is bus sleepers, it's pretty quiet on the bus.
You mentioned your major. What do you hope to ultimately do with that major one day?
I like sports, but I think I'm going to move outside of sports with physical therapy. I really like working with kids. So I might go into pediatrics with physical therapy, but I'm also really interested in neuro and spinal cord injuries, strokes. So we'll see. I haven't had a lot of time to really look into various fields, but those are the two top areas I'm looking at right now.
How did that become a topic of interest for you?
The neurology. We have a family friend who had a spinal cord injury a few years ago, so I think seeing his recovery and how physical therapy has helped him, that really started my inspiration for that field.
Back to the here and now with volleyball, and as mentioned, the team will be home on Friday against Rockford at 7 o'clock. Saturday, Concordia, Chicago here for a 12 noon start, all part of Alumni Weekend. The team is 8-6. 4 of those losses have come in 5 sets. A very challenging non-conference. Some of the who's who in the top 25. Off to a 2-0 start in conference play. Your thoughts on the way the team's playing right now?
I think that we have done a really good job of growing over the season. I think over the past couple weeks we're kind of in a little funk with those fifth sets because we were playing a lot of teams that they were challenging teams, but we 100% could have beat them in that fifth set, but we couldn't get quite there. And I think that came with being a little bit of a younger team, having some newer people on the court. But I think this last weekend really showed that we've been able to make progress and step up. We finally won that fifth set against River Falls and then came really close against Stevens Point. So there's been a lot of really good growth, and I think playing those tough teams has made us really ready for what's coming in conference.
Obviously, every match is different, but what's the feel going into a fifth set? If you're coming off a win versus coming off a loss in that fourth set, is there a different mindset sometimes where obviously the other team may have the momentum or you have the momentum going in?
Yeah, I think there is. Me personally, I'm pretty good at not thinking about that, but I'm sure it's a huge thing for a lot of people on our team. Winning that fourth set and coming back, kind of ruining the other team's vibe, that's huge going to the fifth set. You have a lot of momentum. And when you lose that fourth set, you kind of have that, all right, like they're coming in hot. We have to be ready to fight. But either way, I think we have to just be in one mental headspace to be strong in that fifth set. And that basically all those other 4 wins didn't matter.
Looking at your stat line as of right now, you've had a couple of double-figure kill performances. You've had 8, 10-plus dig performances, a couple of double-doubles. You've knocked 6 service aces in a matchup against Rose Hallman. Are you happy with the way you're playing so far as a senior?
Yeah, I'm relatively happy with it. I always think there's room for myself to grow. But I also like to focus on the positives. So usually I'm not even focused on how I'm playing. I'm focused on the rest of the team and how I can make an impact on them, even if it's just, is my team happy? Are they happy to be here? Are they happy to play in the court? So, yes, I'm happy with my play. I'm always focused on growing in that, but I'm also really focused on how I can help the team overall.
I mentioned the 6 service aces against Rose Hallman. You also had a 5 service ace performance against the Wheaton Thunder. You lead the team with 26 service aces. Without giving away too much, is there a strategy? What's your strategy to serving?
I think it's just muscle memory at this point. I've been doing it for so long, and I put in a lot of work with, technique when I'm serving, keeping it really consistent every time, which is definitely key, not changing up routine. I bounce the ball a certain number of times. I hold it a certain way. I take certain steps. So I think it's just that consistency that really helps.
Has it always been a strength of yours?
I think so. Overall, it's usually been something I've been pretty good at, which I think comes from starting serving when I was like 3 years old in the gym with my mom. I remember when I couldn't even underhand serve the ball over the net and then moving through a light volleyball. And so to be here now is pretty cool.
So has it gotten to a point, you kind of mentioned this, but okay, so you're bouncing the ball a certain amount of times. do you just know, like, automatic now? You're not in your head counting, like, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not counting. And I think a huge thing is I just focus on taking one big breath before just to, like, calm myself down because it can get exciting. It can get intense. You have people yelling at you. I think that's the one thing I think about. Okay, Jenna, remember to breathe.
In your time as a Falcon, how do you feel you've improved as a volleyball player?
I think my mental strength has definitely improved, just being able to rebound from mistakes, which I think is really huge as an outside hitter because your job is to do whatever you can with a ball that can be hard to hit because we're out of system a lot when we're hitting as outsides, and my job is to do something good with that ball. And it can be hard to do when you're getting difficult sets when they're out of system, but you have to be okay with, okay, I just did as well as I could with that ball. Maybe it didn't go the way I wanted, but I have to be ready to get that next ball.
You know, we talked earlier about one of the big adjustments this season for Falcon women's volleyball is a new head coach. But now as an outside hitter, one of the adjustments you have to make is a new setter, if you will, because Sierra Lee has been one of the two setters for the last few years, but now that second setter and the two-setter offense, getting in sync with a setter, does that take a lot of time?
It does. It's not as difficult as an outside because we have a relatively easy tempo ball. But I think there's an aspect of trust, like me trusting the setter and the setter trusting me, that always comes into play. But Rick, who has stepped in that position, has done a really great job. I trust her. I know she's going to do her best with the ball. And she's been really good at adjusting to all the hitters because we're all pretty picky.
To wrap it up, the goals you have for yourself, the team, for the rest of this season?
I think a big goal is to keep winning those fifth sets.
Yeah.
I think we know we can do it, and I want.
How about just avoid the fifth sets?
Yeah, that too. That would be great. I would love to win some in 3 because
Yes.
we like playing extra sets right now. But we're just getting extra practice in before more conference games. But I think just to keep dominating and win strongly because we're winning, but I think we can be a little more confident in how we're winning those games, making it a little less stressful. But then I think keeping the good vibes out on the court, that was a huge focus for last weekend, and we did a really good job of that. So just continuing that because when we're vibing out there, we play well.
And I think it's going to be fun to see now as you start to get in the grind of the conference schedule, how some of this non-conference competition pays off. But, again, it starts this weekend. You can see Jenna and her teammates in action Friday at 7 against Rockford, Saturday at 12 noon against Concordia Chicago, all part of Alumni Weekend. Jenna, thanks a lot for your time. Best of luck this season.
Thank you.
Jenna Sauce, our guest. We thank Jeff Walker in his 23rd season with Falcon football, and we thank you for watching this week's edition of Falcon Focus.